Hey y'all, this is Nancy the Handy Scandy, and thanks for joining me for another crafty venture. Today I'm making these cards with you, and we'll just jump right in. So I'm using this great big beautiful mermaid stamp. This whole set, I don't even know the size. Is it like 5 by 6, 5 by 7 maybe? The main mermaid herself is huge. She covers a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel, and you'll see here in just a minute. I love her. She's gorgeous. I'm not necessarily a mermaid girl, but I fell in love with her. And so this stamp set is by Santoro London, and this line of stamps is called Gorjuss, Gorjuss. If you are not familiar with the Gorjussgirls, I encourage you to check them out. And of course, you know, I'll have them listed and linked below. But I love them. I know some people aren't incredibly fond of them because they just have eyes. They don't have, all the facial features. But I think that is the fun of them, or at least part of the fun of them. They're all just precious. But I love them. And sorry about that. Because they don't have all their facial features, you can use them for whatever you want. They can be sad, they can be happy, they can be celebratory, they can be aloof, whatever. So back to the card, you saw that I stamped it out with my Versa Mark sticky embossing ink, and then I put the ink on 3 black as night embossing powder, and I hit it with my heat tool, and I did that to 2 different panels. And so on this first one, I did a fun ombre in her hair. It starts with purple to more of a hot pink. It's not picking up the hot pink on the video, but it is a bit of a hot pink, and then it goes down to that soft pink. And then on her fin, you can see that I'm doing pink, orange, yellow from the bottom up. So the pink is the uniting color on her. And even her skin, by the time I get there, it looks more peach on camera, but it's definitely pink skin. So pink is the main color on this particular mermaid. And she just turns out so stinking sweet. And in terms of my coloring techniques, sometimes there's her skin. You can see it looks more peach, like she's Caucasian, but I meant her to be. And when you see her in person, she's actually pink. But what was I going to say? Oh, in terms of my coloring techniques, sometimes I scribble the watercolor, because these are my Arteza Real Brush watercolor markers or watercolor pens. Sometimes I go direct to paper if I need a more saturated amount of color. Sometimes I scribble it on my craft mat, and then I just pick it up and put it straight to the paper that way. My water brush is not filled with water. I prefer to dip it. I just feel like I have more control of the water. And here I am spraying some Shimmer Spritz all over her because, of course, mermaids have to sparkle, right? And I'm trying to pick up that sparkle in my lighting, but it just doesn't work. You just don't see it. So I apologize for that. But trust me, there's loads of sparkle on her. And I do this to a second one. You can kind of see the pink there a little bit better on her up close, but she still just looks Caucasian, and that was not my goal. So here is my second one, and again I'm doing ombre on both the hair and the fin, and I start with a different shade of purple. It's a darker, more royal purple, and then I go to blue and then teal, and so the ends of her hair are teal. And the blending was just so smooth with this water brush pen and these markers. I love my watercolor markers from Arteza, y'all. And so the uniting color on this one is the purple, because on her fin you can see I did yellow on the bottom, and I'm using a hot pink, and then I use a shade of purple again. It's not quite as bold as the purple in her hair at the crown of her head, but it's purple nonetheless, and so purple is the uniting color. But you don't have to have a, quote, uniting color or a color that marries the top and the bottom. You can color them whatever you want to. You can color it all one color. You can do her in black and white, whatever you want to do. Again, your creativity is your only limit. So just, if you have this, I encourage you, just color her up whatever way you want to. It's a beautiful image, and whatever you color her with, whatever color scheme, whatever patterns you might want to add to her will be beautiful. I mean, I could see paper piecing Oh man, the hair might be difficult to paper piece, but it can be done. It definitely can be done, especially if you have an electronic cutting machine. Absolutely. So I finished coloring her fin and got the colors blended together. Again, you can see that it's the yellow, the pink, and the purple. And then what I did not show is that I actually colored her skin green, and it's so much fun. I love it. And I added the Shimmer Spritz to her as well. So here I pull out my Arteza 36, I think it's 36 palette, watercolor pans. I don't know what else to call them. I think they're called watercolor pans, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. And so I'm making yet another underwater scene. So I've got the Arteza watercolor paper, the Expert watercolor paper, and I just cut a sheet in half. And this will make the background for both mermaids. So here I just wet my paper, and I'm trying to get some movement to quote-unquote water. And I use various shades of blue. If I can figure out which ones I used, I'll list them below, but I'll definitely list the whole palette down below. And again, I love my watercolor. I love it. And I don't have, I mean, the only other watercolor palette I have is like this cheapo $5 pearlescent one from Michaels. And the pearlescence is amazing on that. But so I said that to say that this is the only real palette that I have other than that. And so, you know, like I don't have Daniel Smith's or anything like that. I would like to get the Altenew. I hear they're amazing. But anyway, I digress. So I'm using various shades of blue. I really wanted it to be more of a teal, but the blues were just too saturated and just drowned out the teal. So here I am adding the Shimmer Spritz to this panel, but I am by no way done. So I try to add some more of the darker blue and some more of the teal and kind of swirl it around and get some movement on there. And I have fun, and I love the water drops, and it's starting to create a really fun effect as it drips and runs, because it has that water movement, right? It's water, it's moving, it's going to have that effect. But you can see it's starting to pool on both sides. I told y'all I'm no expert. I'm just a novice, just doing what I do, trying to figure it out as I go. And so I lose some of that movement, so I'm trying to replicate that again without adding more water. But of course, you know, it's just wanting to sit there. And I don't understand that because my panel was really wet. So here I take my heat gun to it, try to dry it so I can add some more layers because, of course, as I mentioned earlier, it's all about the layering. So I dry it up. And you can see it's got a little bit of movement in there. It's got some very deliberate marks as well. But my mat is covered in paint and water. So I thought, let's do some paint smushing. And then so I'm doing that and I'm heating it up. And excuse me, there's some of the Shimmer Spritz in that water and paint that's on the mat. So I'm picking up a little more shimmer and shine. And I don't know why I'm not able to pick that up on my camera, y'all. I'm sorry for that. You can see it a little bit there when the light hit it just right. But again, I'm just trying to add some more texture, some more layers. And I think it turns out pretty fun. So then I cut them in half on my Tim Holtz guillotine trimmer. Where is it? Tonic Studios. It's the same trimmer. And then I take out my Waves stencil from Heffy Doodle. I love this stencil. I know you guys have seen me use it several times. Unfortunately, I don't know what I did wrong this time, but it's just not leaving the movement and the stenciled look that I was hoping for. So I'm really just using some dirty water there to try to pull up some of the blue paint, but it just doesn't work. And then I add some Shimmer Spritz to it, and then I actually went back in with the marker because I could tell that the water wasn't picking anything up. So I went in with the marker, added some more color, and thought, well, if it's not going to be lighter, let's see if I can make it darker. Then I added the Shimmer Spritz, and it was such a subtle effect, like you almost don't even see it. And then once I get the cards put together, you don't see it at all, despite my attempts. And I went back many times to try to get that wavy movement on those panels, and it just didn't work for me this time. I could have dry embossed them, but I didn't think about it, to be honest. So you can see that I'm fussy cutting her out. Her hair and her tail are very fine, and I got a very interesting effect as I was cutting around the edges and the corners, and you can see there that the tail is curved. You see that? Or that's her hair. But you see that movement? That was very organic. It happened on its own as I cut, as I twisted and turned the image instead of my scissors, because one of my tips for fussy cutting is you want to hold your scissors, you want to use small sharp blade, and you want to hold your scissors still and turn your image. So as I was doing that, it created this incredible movement on the hair and the fin, and I love it. And so I'm like, okay, we've got to preserve that once we get it to the card panel. And so here I'm taking one of my dark Everblends. Again, it's the Arteza brand, and I'm just going over the edges like I've done before, just to kind of finish it up. You don't have to do this, but to me, it's not about perfection. It's about finishing work and about putting your best foot forward and taking pride in the work that you do. And just this little step, and on a bigger image, of course, it's going to take a little more time, but typically it's a really fast process just to go around the edges. And you don't have to use black necessarily, just any kind of dark color will work. And then there's that little space between her arm and her body that was just solid white. And I didn't want to try coloring that or painting that to match the background, because I thought I'm just going to mess it up. So I flipped my Spellbinders mat over, because the other side is supposed to be self-healing. Then I just put it down and I used my craft knife and I cut that out. It didn't work the best. I need a new blade for my craft knife. And it also left a big hole, well, I don't want to say hole, but big cut marks in my mat. So it was definitely not self-healing. But I did that process to both mermaids. So I cut them out using those little scissors, did the fussy cutting, and look at the dimension and the movement in her hair. I'm so happy. And so I do that with both, and I used my Walmart Fun Foam again, just down the middle, in all honesty, just over her body and the bulk of her tail, because I want to preserve that movement once I get them adhered to the card panel. And you saw on the blue and green one that it really worked. So that made my heart very happy, and that was what all the clapping was about. So here I've got them both mounted. You can see the dimension, you can see the movement. I'm so happy with these. They're so much fun, so cute. And then I end up adding some Nuvo drops and some Studio Katya clear bubbles. I put the bubbles in their hair and they're so stinking cute. Oh my gosh, they have water bubbles in their hair. And then I have some blue, they're like a shimmery navy and teal enamel dot from, is it Gina Marie Designs? Yeah. So here are my finished cards. I made them thank you cards because there was someone at work who specifically wanted beachy thank yous. But I'm in love with these cards, y'all. So guys, if you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you'd give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. I'd love to talk to you downstairs. If you've not already subscribed, I'd appreciate it if you would. And again, I'm Nancy, the Handy's Candy, and I'll join you right back here next time for another crafty venture. Thanks.